Imagine, if you will, your day job is to drive a 1,000+ horsepower Formula One car on the ragged edge week in and week out, and then some German tells you you can't handle 425 horsepower. As I'm sure you're all aware, Max Verstappen is going to make his competitive debut at the Nurburgring this weekend. And like we talked about last time, the Nurburgring, well, they're pretty damn strict about their licensing and regulations, so he's not going to be competing in the top flight GT3 class.
The gentleman went, "It is impossible to drive without a license!"
In order to get the Permit A license required to race a GT3 car in competition at the Nürburgring, Max first has to have 2 qualifying results in a lesser classification of car. So that means Max's first foray into competition at the Nürburgring will be in a GT4 classed Porsche Cayman. That's not where it ends. See, the Cayman, well, it typically makes 425-ish horsepower in race trim. However, in addition to classroom work, competing in a lesser class, all of that stuff, the Nürburgring still has further regulations for first-time competitors. See, that Cayman has a power-to-weight ratio of 3.1 kilograms per horsepower. The ring has a rule that regardless of your motorsports background, the first time you compete at the Nürburgring, the power-to-weight ratio of the car you're competing in cannot exceed 4.2 kilograms per horsepower. So on the upshot, Max can compete in 2 separate cars to fulfill the 2 required finishes that he needs to get his Permit A license. On the downside, both of those cars will only be making 300 horsepower, making them very non-competitive in the class that they race in. But there is some light at the end of the tunnel if you want to see Max competing at the highest level at the Nürburgring. Yes, Max is competing in an extremely nerfed car in the class he's being forced to drive in order to meet the permitting requirements. And you also have to remember there's 2 4-hour races at the ring this weekend, which means after the first race, if everything goes well, everything falls right, Max will meet all of the requirements necessary to compete in a full-fledged GT3 car around the ring at the next race, which just so happens to be on Sunday.